The very first time I raised money for the first business that I helped start, I borrowed $50,000 from my mother to buy 48 patents from General Electric Company. And I swore to myself after I did that I would never do that again for a variety of reasons. So the second company that I helped start, we licensed technology from Cornell University, and we essentially gave them a 2-year note, so we bought 2 years before we had to pay it back. The last company that I just started, I licensed technology from the University of Albany, and I made a deal with them that after I raised a large sum of money, I'd pay them a small amount of it to pay for the license fee. So I think the first lesson that I learned from all this is that the best money is the money you don't have to raise, and that you should try to be very creative in not having to raise it. When I was a technology entrepreneur in residence at the SBDC, a lot of people would show up for advice, and they'd say, I have this beautiful business plan, I'm going to hire all these people, I'm going to spend all this money. And then they would focus the entire business on raising the money because the plan said they couldn't start until they raised the money. And I think a better mindset for that is what's the next milestone that you need to get to advance the business and make it of interest to investors. And then be creative in how cheaply you can get there. And then be creative again in how cheaply you can get there. Because poverty, the lack of money, actually drives creativity. And I'll give you a story about that after I talk about a little cheat to raising equity, which is grant funding. I'm a big advocate of grant funding. In the last 7 years, I've written 36 grants. I got 16 awards worth about $8 million total. Now, grant funding isn't for every company, but it's a great discipline to have to go through and write a grant. You learn a lot about your business when you're trying to explain it to somebody. So the grants I'm talking about are generally SBIRs and some energy funding from NYSERDA. The SBIR program works in 2 phases, a phase 1 where you demonstrate the technology, and a phase 2 where they pay you for product development. Now my company, Hocus Locus, we have a very unique technology that has a lot of different applications. We chose a certain product application, and we ended up getting a phase 1 award from the NIH. When we did very well on that, developing the technology, and when we went to apply for the phase 2, I started to realize that the product that we'd chosen to start with, I wasn't that confident on it, and it turns out the reviewers weren't confident at all, and we didn't get funding. And so I went back to the team and said, the product concept, that's not going to work out. We need to think of something else. And it took about 2 or 3 months, and an idea surfaced for an entirely different product line, which we did some quick experimentation work. We filed another phase 1, and it looks like we're going to receive that. So if we had actually gotten that phase 2 funding, it's about $1 million, we probably would have spent it on that bad product concept. And instead, when we didn't have it, we were creative and came up and basically doubled the value of the company. Now we also have now applied for the phase 2 again with a slight tweak on the product concept, and we're hoping to get that fund in the next little while. So grant funding is great. Poverty drives creativity. The last thing that I want to leave you with is you do need to be careful who you raise money from. There are times when you absolutely have to raise money. There's nothing else you can do. And you need to think about who you're taking the money from. Not just because it can make family events a little difficult when you sit next to your uncle and he asks you where his money went, but because you're entering a long-term relationship with somebody. The expectations are very high, and if you don't trust the person going in, if the negotiation for the investment gets kind of difficult and nitpicky, I don't think it's going to get any better. It's sort of, if you're dating someone and you don't trust them and they're really demanding, it's not going to magically get better when you get married. So you really want to think about who it is that you're going to take money from before you bring it in. And the other thing to think about is your friends and family, they know you. If you can't raise money from people outside your friends and family, it might not be that good an idea. And when you go to talk to people, you'll hear a lot more no's than you'll hear yeses. And the best discipline is to really ask honestly and sincerely for feedback on why somebody said no, and really consider it. It's very difficult discipline to consider the negative feedback that you get and look for some validity in it before you completely reject it and go on your way anyway because you're obsessed with your idea anyway. And that's about it.